These are the interviews from Chat City on Preston FM. Don't forget, our show is live weekdays from 10 till noon. Tune in and become part of our family.
We're into the last half hour of Chat City on Wednesday the 5th of March, and I'm really pleased to be joined by Carol Higham, who's come along from Barnall Bill's Sanctuary. The website is barnallbill.co.uk, and I believe Carol's come along to tell us about the work that's done there in rescuing birds, and I think to appeal for some help, because it's been a bit of a rough time financially for the Sanctuary. But I was looking on the website last night, and in January 2014, you were looking after 58 birds, which is not the maximum number that you've had. But good morning, Carol, and welcome to Preston FM. How are you doing? It's lovely to welcome you here. So just tell us a little bit about your involvement with the charity. When did you start to look after birds and work with birds of prey as such?
When I first met Bill. But Bill's been doing it for about 25, 26 years now. Right,
so tell me, Bill, why did Bill suddenly fall in love with birds of prey? Was it something he was interested in as a child, I wonder?
No, not at all. He didn't know one end of a barn owl from another. But it was an ex-partner that he had that actually fell in love with a barn owl that her brother had, and she wanted it. So Bill said, right, you get it, you look after it, because at the time he was in a wheelchair. She got it, but unfortunately she couldn't look after it because she couldn't rip the raw meat up and feed it by hand. So Bill had to do it, and the bird took to Bill, and it's gone on from there.
So where is the Sanctuary actually based?
At home.
Right, so home is South Ribble?
South Brook Road.
So tell us the area of Preston that's in. Is it
Leyland?
Right, so it's the bigger community of Preston and South Ribble. So at that house in the back garden, there is a bird sanctuary, is that right?
Yes.
And what sort of, are there cages and aviaries, or?
They're aviaries.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just said that in January you were looking after 58 birds. The record I think you had at one point was 80. But how do these birds find their way to you? Do people just, the Barnall Bill, he'll sort it?
Yeah, mainly.
Well, that shows he's done good work over the years, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. We get a lot in that have been injured one way or another, traffic accidents or flying into electric pylons or whatever. And quite a few that we've had in have been like ex-pets.
Really? Are we suffering from that thing about the recession where people can no longer afford?
We haven't noticed it at the moment, but we did get a lot in a few years ago when Harry Potter started.
Oh, right. The latest must-have pet.
Yes.
Such a shame, because they're not just leave them all day while you're out at work. There's a lot of care involved, I would imagine.
It depends what you want out of them. I mean, if you just want them to sit in an aviary and look pretty, then there's not that much work involved. But if you're wanting it as a so-called pet to handle and fuss with and that, then it does take time.
That's not fair on the bird, is it, to have them just to sit there looking pretty?
No.
Because, tell us what you would do full on to look after a bird of prey properly. What sort of daily routine would you have for the bird to keep it happy and healthy?
Like I say, it depends what you want to do with it, but ours are handled up to a certain point. I mean, we do have some that really aren't people friendly because of the way they've been treated in the past. They just won't tolerate people. So unfortunately we just have to leave them in their aviaries. They come out once a week or twice a week during summer when we're cleaning the aviaries. But apart from that, they just get fed once a day. Others are handled, fussed with, played with.
Do they need to fly?
Owls, no.
Because you would imagine that if a bird can't fly, it's not going to be happy. But
no, but so long as they're fed and watered, shall we say, they're quite happier, an owl.
Right. So is it just owls that you look after?
No, we have 3 Harris hawks and a red tail and 2 kestrels.
What if somebody finds an injured pigeon? Would you give him house room just for a short while?
No, we're not allowed to.
Right, so is the legislation involved in what you do?
We're only licensed to look after birds of prey.
Right. Now, the licence, does that mean that people who want birds of prey as a pet also have to have a licence?
Not necessarily, no.
Well, that's daft, isn't it? That
if
people
you want what they call a European bird of prey, one from Britain or the European countries, you do actually need what they call an Article 10.
Right.
That is the licence that goes with each bird, telling you what you can and can't do with it, whether you can use it for educational use or commercial use or breeding or things like that.
Now, I've got two memories of birds of prey. One is watching the film Kes and reading that book at school. I recently rewatched that film, and it holds up very well. So that's one experience I have of birds of prey. And the second is seeing birds close up at summer events. You take displays round so people can actually get up close and look at the animals.
Yes, we do. Yes.
How often do you do that sort of work?
As often as we're asked.
There's got to be a donation to the cause, though, hasn't there, for you to turn out?
Yes, usually. I mean, depending on the place that we're going to, if we can be guaranteed good donations from the public, then we don't always ask for a donation from the place that we're going to. But obviously you have to cover your costs, your running costs.
You've lost a bird recently, or in the last year, that was a very long-lived bird. Was he called Paulie or Paul? I saw that on the website.
Yes.
Tell us about that bird. Why was it with you so long?
Paulie was the face of barn owl Bill's.
Right.
Bill hand-raised her from 3 days old. He had a pair of barn owls that had bred, and at the time he had a dog. For some reason, one day the dog went out and wouldn't come away from the aviary. So Bill went out and threatened this dog with all sorts of things. But then he noticed this little tiny pink chick on the floor that was only about 3 or 4 days old.
Right.
So he brought her in, hand-raised her, and she was just like a daughter to him after that.
So was that the start of the sanctuary, or was he already looking after birds?
No, he already had some birds then.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know the Dogs Trust have this sort of sponsor a dog, don't they, where you can pay monthly and you can get a little newsletter or a photograph.
Yeah.
Or you can go and visit it at the sanctuary. Does that happen in sort of rescue other animals? I mean, could we sponsor an owl?
You certainly can. Yes.
Tell us how we would do that, because
it's £35 a year, and it doesn't matter whether it's a little owl of about 3 or 4 inches tall or one of the big Europeans that's getting up to 2.5 feet tall. They're all the same price, and you get a certificate for the bird. You get newsletters. This
is good, isn't it?
A Christmas card every Christmas off the bird. And
can you call round and sort of come do you have opening hours where you can come and sort of just have a look and a see?
Unfortunately, no. We are not allowed to open to the public.
Right, so you have to come out to the displays to see the birds, right?
Yeah, but depending on which bird you sponsor, you can't always see it on a display because some of the birds we can't take out.
Right. There's lots of legislation involved in looking after these animals, isn't there? And rules about what you can and you can't do.
Yeah.
I understand that financially keeping this going has not been very easy in recent years.
No. I think what it is, there are more and more people out there doing this now. I mean, when Bill first started, for quite a good number of years, he was the only one in the area doing it. But then, over this last few years, we've noticed more and more people out there going out and doing it. So,
Right, well, let's just take a pause in our conversation, because when I see a bird of prey, I'm fascinated to look closely at the feathers and the eyes and the way they move their heads. And there are people, fly birds, on my local playing field. I'd like to ask you about people who, what sort of equipment you actually need to fly a bird. So let's have a little bit. I'll play this of my next door neighbour who's in Blackpool having a great time. She's gone away for a couple of days. This is Status Quo. Jean, this is for you, rocking all over the world.
A local radio station.
For local people.
103.2 Preston FM.
Your community radio.
It's 11 6:48 on Wednesday, the 5th of March on Chat City on Preston FM, and I'm here with Carol Higham in the studio down here in Cannon Street. You found us eventually, didn't you, Carol?
I did, yeah.
You did. We need a plaque on the door, don't we?
It could do with something.
We were talking about the fact that it's been a bit difficult financially lately for the sanctuary. Tell us what sort of problems you're facing there.
Well, last year the Averys needed re-roofing. They were sort of coming to the end of their life, and we were actually donated quite a lot of the corrugated roofing from a firm in Wales. But we needed people to help us to put it up. We got a few volunteers came and helped us, and we got those sorted, which, thank goodness, saved the Averys this winter where the weather's been.
It's been particularly bad, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So the bank account isn't looking very good.
No.
So we were talking about before about sponsoring and sponsoring an owl.
Yeah.
So if people wanted to do that, where would they look? Would they look on the internet?
You can look on the website, or you can ring us, or see us on displays.
Now, the website is barnowlbill.co.uk. That's quite a nice one to say, Barn Owl Bill. It could be a jazz musician, couldn't he? Boogie Bill or something like that. Barn Owl Bill. So you really do want people to look at the website and give you a helping hand. Now, on my local field, which is Mill Lane, the Causeway area of Preston, there's a man comes and flies a bird of prey. He arrives with his little box and the bird's in there. Yeah. And he's got his gloves and his leash, his rein. What sort of equipment do you need if you're going to look after a bird properly? Just a wire on your wrist? You need anklets round its legs. Right. So they don't fly off. Yeah, you need jesses, which are like leather straps, which are attached to the anklets. And then you need a leash, which is attached to the jesses and onto your glove. Right. Those are the main things. You need a carry box if you're taking it out and about. Mm-hmm. And when you're training them to fly, you need them on what they call a crayons. You don't just let them go and hope they'll come back. No. You have to train them, obviously, so you put them on the crayons, which is... A crayons, that sounds like a French word. Which is a long piece of string, if you will. So the bird flies away, lands, and comes back for the food which you've ripped and you have ready. And eventually the trust builds up between the owner and the bird that the bird can fly freely. Yeah. Which must be a great feeling. Better than flying a kite, isn't it? I don't know, because we don't fly any of our birds on displays. Right. We have a couple that we fly for our own pleasure. But on displays we don't, because of the insurance. So it's something you do privately as individuals, so you don't actually do it for people to see. No. In fact, I would imagine birds would get a bit spooked perhaps by the number of people there if you were flying them. It depends on the bird. I mean, if you bring them up from youngsters to having a lot of people around and having noises around them and things like that, then they just get used to it. Right. Let me go back to Harry Potter. Did Harry Potter do a favour for the snowy owls, or did it do a disservice in making them sort of this popular cuddly pet? It did a disservice to a lot of breeds of birds. Not just the snowies? Not just the snowies, no. You were getting your big Europeans, you were getting your barn owls, tawny owls. Just sent at one point any type of owl that they could get hold of. Right. Are there any celebrity birds of prey people that you've ever come across? You know, because all these pop stars have little dogs in bags now, don't they? Yeah. There's nobody who... No, not that I've heard of. So we need somebody local who is a bit of a celeb to join in this campaign, don't we, to become a... Yeah, we did actually get in touch with Bill Oddie. Right. And he gave us a piece that we could put on the bottom of our paperwork to say that, you know, he agreed with what we was doing and he supported us. But apart from that, I haven't heard of anybody. So are there any grants that you can apply for to run... because are you a registered charity? We are a registered charity. Well, that must be good for various things, mustn't it? No. It looks good on the letterhead. It does, and that's funding. About it. It doesn't attract any funding? No. And we can't claim any grants or anything because we're not open to the public. Right, but the public see you when you go to events and display.
Yeah.
So what we really need is people who are organising events. So we want the carnival days and the fetes and the festivals. They need to get in touch with barnowlbill.co.uk and invite you along and help support the cause by asking for donations on the day.
Yeah.
Do you turn out on those days with the road show?
I do.
And how many birds will you take out on a typical display day?
On a typical display, between 4 and 5.
And will you try to take a selection of big ones, little ones, white ones, brown ones?
Yeah, we usually have a little owl, tawny owl, barn owl, sometimes a European eagle owl. Depends what mood she's in.
Sounds like my wife.
And we've actually started taking a young Harris hawk with us.
Right. When I look into my dog's eyes, you can see something there and you get a bond. Can you get a bond with a bird? Do you look into a bird's eyes and you can see into his soul?
You can get a bond, but
it's difficult.
Yeah.
Well, because they're hunters, aren't they?
Yeah.
They are there to survive.
Yeah.
And that's all they're interested in genetically.
Yeah.
Right, so do you know, this has been fascinating because I'm going to look out for displays in the summer months and come along and see you. So just tell us again the contact details if people want to sponsor and look after, sponsor a bird. How can we get in touch?
You can ring the landline, which is 01772.
I'm writing it down.
463 221.
463 221. Let me repeat that. 01772 Preston.
Yeah.
463 221. Did you say?
It is.
Why
yes.
have I written 221? There must be more contacts that we can go with.
You can go onto the website. You could actually email www.barnowl. Oh, hang on.
Barnowlbill.
Yeah, barnowlbill.co.uk.
Yeah, and there'll be an email link there to get in touch. Yeah.
Or you could email at sappy, SAPPI,
right.
.bill at blueyonder.co.uk.
I'm going to ask you what sappy means. Is that?
It was the name of the first tawny owl that Bill had.
Right, so sappy.bill. Does he has fond memories of that bird, does he?
He does,
Yeah.
yes.
sappy.bill@blueyonder.co.uk.
That's
Well,
it.
Carol, it's been lovely to talk to you. I shall certainly go and have a look at the website with fresh eyes now that I've met you. So we want people to support you. There's loads of draws on people's money, but a little sponsorship and a donation would be a real good present for somebody, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there might be 1 or 2 pages that you can't get onto at the moment at the website because it's being upgraded.
Right.
So
that's always the same with the internet.
I
Page
know.
won't load. So thank you very much. I'm going to play Lulu singing Shout because we need to shout this from the rooftops, don't we? Come and help the
it
Barn
would be
Owls.
nice.
barnowlbill.co.uk. Carol, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having us.
We hope you've enjoyed this interview as much as we have. Why not join our Chat City family and give us a tweet at Chat City PFM.